Ladies and gentlemen, life will always give you something to react to, someone to argue with, something to defend, something to prove. But the real power, the real maturity, the real growth is when you learn that not everything deserves your energy. When you rise above drama, you rise in peace, you rise in clarity, and you rise in purpose. See, drama is designed to drain you. It's meant to pull your focus away from what really matters. Enemy doesn't need to destroy you, he just needs to distract you. If he can keep you tangled in gossip, comparison, and conflict, you'll never have time to build, to grow, or to evolve. You'll spend your days fighting small battles when you were created for greater victories. There comes a point in your life where you've got to say, I'm done feeding what doesn't serve me. You've got to protect your peace like it's sacred, because it is. Every time you respond to negativity, you invest in something that has no return. Every time you argue to prove your worth, you forget that your worth was already proven by your growth, your progress, your resilience. Elevation requires separation. You cannot climb while carrying chaos. You cannot grow while entertaining every distraction. You cannot live in purpose while living for people's approval. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is walk away without explaining a thing. Silence becomes your weapon. Focus becomes your strength. When you rise above drama, you begin to see who's really for you and who's just around you. You start realizing that peace isn't found in perfect situations, it's found in wise decisions. It's not about running from problems, it's about choosing what deserves your presence. Because not everything that calls for you is meant for you. When you make that choice, when you stop reacting to every storm, when you stop lowering your energy to match someone else's chaos, you start to soar. You start to attract better conversations, better people, better opportunities. Because peace doesn't chase, peace attracts. So guard your focus. Protect your peace. Stay grounded in your purpose. Because when you rise above the drama, you don't just avoid trouble. You ascend into destiny. And that's where real life begins, not in the noise, but in the clarity that follows silence. Drama is the silent thief of destiny. It disguises itself as something small, a disagreement, an argument, a misunderstanding. But if you let it, it becomes a lifestyle. Drama feeds on your focus, your peace, your energy. It makes noise where there should be clarity and confusion where there should be calm. And if you aren't careful, you'll spend your whole life reacting to what was meant to distract you instead of moving toward what was meant to build you. Every dream requires direction, every vision requires focus, and every calling demands your full attention. But drama does not coexist with purpose. Drama thrives where immaturity lives. It's sustained by ego, fueled by insecurity, and multiplied through reaction. The moment you give it your attention, it begins to pull you off course, not all at once, but slowly, quietly, subtly. It doesn't destroy you overnight, it drains you over time. You stop moving forward and start circling the same emotional battles, the same arguments, the same people. The truth is, drama doesn't always come from others. Sometimes it comes from within. It's the internal noise, the overthinking, the self-doubt, the need to be right, craving to be validated. You can't control what others say or do, but you can control what you allow to live rent-free in your mind. When your peace is constantly disturbed, your direction becomes blurred, because you can't build a future when your heart is busy defending the past. People who live for drama are people who haven't yet found purpose. Because once you find something worth building, you no longer have time to argue. Purpose silences pettiness. When you know who you are and where you're going, you don't stop to entertain distractions that add no value to your journey. The same way a pilot doesn't argue with turbulence, they simply rise above it. You too must learn to rise above what's beneath you. You cannot move forward if you're always reacting backward. The more energy you give to drama, the less energy you have to give to destiny. Every conversation soaked in negativity, every argument built on pride, every moment spent proved in a point steals from your progress. You might think you're standing up for yourself, but in reality, you're standing still, and stillness in the wrong place is just another form of delay. Sometimes the hardest lesson is to not respond, to choose silence over explanation, to let peace win over pride. Because not every attack deserves your attention, and not every disagreement needs your defense. The people who truly understand you don't need explanations. The ones who are determined to misunderstand you won't hear them anyway. You rise when you stop chasing validation. You rise when you stop explaining your every move. You rise when you stop feeding what drains you. Drama cannot survive without your participation. The moment you stop reacting, it loses its power. But when you respond to everything that tries to provoke you, you become enslaved to distraction. Direction requires discipline. You cannot build anything meaningful without focus. Your mind must be clear enough to see opportunity when it appears, steady enough to hold peace when storms come. Drama clouds vision. It consumes mental space that should be used for creativity, faith, and growth. It replaces reflection with reaction and peace with pressure. That's why you must protect your mental and emotional boundaries like sacred ground, because what grows in your mind shapes what grows in your life. People who achieve greatness are not the ones who never face drama. They're the ones who refuse to be consumed by it. They understand that not every battle is worth fighting, and not every voice deserves an answer. They value their energy. They prioritize their mission. They've learned that peace is a currency, and they spend it wisely. When you allow yourself to be constantly distracted by drama, you give away your most valuable asset, your attention. And attention is the gateway to creation. Whatever you focus on grows. So if you're constantly focused on conflict, chaos, or gossip, that's what multiplies in your life. But when you focus on peace, gratitude, and purpose, that's what expands. It's not magic, it's mindset. Your life moves in the direction of your dominant focus. Sometimes you have to step back and evaluate who and what is draining my direction. What conversations leave me feeling empty instead of inspired? What environments stir anxiety instead of clarity? When you identify those sources, you take back your power. Because once you know what drains you, you can choose to disconnect from it. Understand this. Peace is not passive. It's a powerful decision to not let the world dictate your emotions. Rising above drama doesn't mean you're weak or indifferent. It means you're wise enough to recognize that some fights are meant to delay you, not develop you. You cannot lead, love, or build effectively if your heart is always at war. There will always be someone who misunderstands you. Always be moments that test your patience. But maturity is learning to respond from vision, not emotion. You can't fulfill your calling while constantly reacting to chaos. You have to decide, do I want to be right or do I want to be effective? Do I want to win the argument or do I want to win my destiny? Direction requires clarity, and clarity comes from stillness, not struggle. Sometimes you find your next step not by talking louder, but by listening deeper to your spirit, your intuition, your peace. When you quiet the noise around you, you start to hear the truth within you. So stop letting drama dictate your day. Stop letting it rewrite your story. Stop letting temporary chaos make you forget eternal purpose. You were not created to live in confusion. You were created to lead with conviction. You were not made to react to everything. You were made to rise above everything. When you guard your focus, you guard your future. You protect your peace, you protect your progress. Drama drains direction, but discipline restores it. Choose your battles wisely. Invest your energy intentionally, and remember, peace is not found in the absence of noise, but in the presence of purpose. Because when you refuse to let drama detour your destiny, you don't just rise, you elevate. You move from reacting to creating, from chaos to clarity, noise to purpose. And that's when your life starts to move in power. There comes a time in every person's life when growth demands distance. Destiny calls for you to let go of what you've outgrown, when the only way to rise is to release, because elevation requires separation. You cannot soar to new levels while staying connected to what keeps you grounded in the old ones. You cannot become who you're meant to be while clinging to who you used to be. Every next level of your life requires a new version of you, and that version cannot emerge while surrounded by noise, negativity, comfort of familiarity. Separation is never easy. It often feels like loss when, in truth, it's preparation. Life will sometimes pull people away, close certain doors, or end certain chapters. not because something went wrong, but because something greater is waiting ahead. The weight of old attachments can't come with you to higher ground. You can't carry every relationship, every mindset, every habit, and still expect to climb. Some things that once helped you will start to hold you if you don't learn when to release them. When you're in a season of elevation, you'll start to notice a shift. What used to satisfy you no longer does. The conversations that once excited you begin to feel empty. The environments that once felt comfortable start to feel too small. That's the sign that growth has begun. It's not that you've become better than anyone. It's that you've become different. Your spirit is stretching. Your mind is maturing. Your purpose is calling you to more. But more always costs something. You cannot take everyone and everything with you. Many people never reach their potential because they're too afraid of separation. They want to be elevated, but still accepted. Challenged to want to grow, but not outgrow. They want to move forward, but still be understood by those who've chosen to stay behind. But the truth is, you can't have both. When you start walking toward destiny, you'll be misunderstood by those who are comfortable in distraction, call you distant, changed, or even arrogant. But don't let that stop you. Growth often looks like isolation before it looks like transformation. Separation isn't rejection, it's redirection. It's not punishment, it's positioning. When God, the universe, life itself removes something from you, it's often because it would have kept you small. You're not being left out, you're being lifted up. There are seasons where silence becomes your teacher and solitude becomes your strength. When you stop chasing validation and start pursuing purpose, you begin to see clearly who belongs in your future and who only belong in your past. Sometimes you have to walk alone to understand your assignment. You can't discover your true identity while surrounded by constant opinions. You can't hear divine direction while distracted by noise. Separation creates the space where revelation can flow. It's in the quiet moments away from crowds and chaos that you rediscover your vision. And once you see what's ahead of you, you'll realize why you had to leave what was behind you. Elevation doesn't happen in comfort. Growth doesn't happen in agreement. The caterpillar doesn't fly because it makes the cocoon comfortable. It transforms in isolation. The same applies to you. That season where you feel misunderstood, disconnected, or distant isn't a breakdown. It's the birthing room of breakthrough. The silence is shaping you. The distance is developing you. The separation is saving you from staying stuck. People often pray for new levels. They rarely prepare for the separation that comes with them. Every higher place comes with thinner air. You can't breathe the same, think the same, carry the same weight. You have to adjust. You have to release. You have to realign. The elevation process is not glamorous. It's uncomfortable, lonely, sometimes painful, but that pain has purpose. It's the pruning that makes room for new growth. Some relationships were only meant to take you part of the way. Some environments were only meant to teach you lessons, not house your future. Some habits helped you survive a season, but will sabotage your success in the next one. When you recognize this, you stop fighting to keep what's fading and start trusting what's forming. Because if something leaves you in the middle of your climb, it means it wasn't meant to exist at the altitude you're headed to. You cannot stay loyal to your old self and still step into your higher self. That means letting go of the fear of being alone, the guilt of outgrowing people, and the need to explain yourself. Everyone won't understand your separation because it's not their elevation. They weren't called to your mountain. They weren't assigned your vision. You don't owe anyone an explanation for protecting your growth. You owe yourself the peace of walking in your purpose. When you elevate, you begin to see differently. You stop looking at life from ground level. You see patterns, you see purpose. You see people for who they truly are. Some who once walked with you may not be able to breathe at your new level, and that's okay. You were never meant to shrink to keep others comfortable. You were meant to rise and inspire others to rise too. But you can't lift anyone if you never leave the ground. Elevation requires pruning, and pruning always feels like loss before it reveals gain. The plant doesn't grow because everything is added. It grows because unnecessary branches are cut away. Likewise, your destiny won't flourish until you let go of the weight of what no longer serves you. Separation is the price of clarity. You can't see the horizon while standing in the crowd. Sometimes you have to climb higher, even if it means climbing alone. And when you do, when you make peace with the process, you'll start to notice something powerful. The loneliness that once felt heavy will turn into peace. The silence that once felt empty will turn into focus. The distance that once felt painful will turn into strength. You'll look back and realize that separation wasn't taking something from you. It was making something within you. Elevation will always cost comfort. It will require you to walk away from conversations that drain, habits that hinder, and people who pull you backward. But it will reward you with perspective, peace, and purpose. It's not about arrogance, it's about alignment. You're not leaving people behind, you're moving forward toward your calling. So if you feel like you're being pulled apart, if you feel isolated, if doors are closing and circles are shrinking, don't panic. That's not rejection. That's preparation. Life is clearing your path for takeoff. You can't reach new heights while being anchored by what's below. Let go with grace. Trust the process. Protect your focus, because elevation requires separation, and separation is the sacred doorway to transformation. When you stop clinging to what was, you make room for what can be. When you release what weighs you down, you finally rise into who you were always meant to become. Peace. It sounds soft, quiet, almost gentle. But make no mistake, peace is not weakness. Peace is power. It is one of the most potent forces you can possess in a chaotic world. When everything around you is shouting, peace whispers with authority. When others are panicking, peace remains still, steady, unshaken. It is not the absence of problems, it is the presence of stability. Peace gives you control when life tries to control you. Peace gives you clarity when confusion tries to cloud your vision. We live in a world addicted to noise, opinions, arguments, comparisons, and constant movement. Everybody wants to be heard, but few want to be still. Yet, the ones who learn to master stillness are the ones who master strength. Because peace is not passive, it's a decision. It's a daily choice to remain calm in situations that would normally pull you apart. It's choosing silence over chaos, wisdom over reaction, purpose over panic. Peace is the discipline of not allowing external chaos to dictate internal calm. Think about it. When your mind is restless, your judgment is clouded, you can't think clearly, you can't create effectively, and you can't see direction. But when you are at peace, you can face storms without drowning in emotion. You can handle setbacks without losing your spirit. You can listen without being defensive, respond without reacting, and decide without doubt. Peace doesn't make you passive. It makes you powerful because it puts you in control of yourself. Peace is not given, it's cultivated. It's something you build through self-awareness, boundaries, and belief. It grows when you stop fighting battles that aren't yours. It strengthens when you stop needing to prove your worth to people who don't value it. Peace begins when you stop chasing what doesn't belong to you and start nurturing what does, your growth, your purpose, your sanity. The more you protect your peace, the more power you gain over your emotions, your time, and your future. When you operate from peace, you move differently. You don't rush decisions out of fear. You don't fight to be understood. You don't chase validation. You walk with quiet confidence because you know that the noise around you doesn't define the truth within you. The louder the world gets, the more valuable your peace becomes. Peace is what separates leaders from followers, builders from talkers, and the focus from the distracted. Peace gives you the ability to pause, and sometimes that pause is where destiny shifts. In that pause, you find perspective. In that pause, you hear wisdom. In that pause, you save yourself from reacting to something that could have destroyed your progress. Peace gives you time to breathe before you break, think before you speak, and realign before you move. That's not weakness. That's mastery. Some people think peace means everything has to be perfect, no conflict, no noise, no struggle. But peace isn't about the absence of problems. It's about the presence of power in the middle of them. You can stand in the storm and still not let it inside you. You can be surrounded by chaos and still remain centered. You can lose people, opportunities, or plans and still not lose yourself. True peace looks like the strength to stay calm when life gives you every reason not to be. Peace is not something you find in others. It's something you create within yourself. If your peace depends on someone else's behavior, you will always be a hostage to their emotions. But when your peace depends on your boundaries, your faith, and your purpose, you become untouchable. You can walk away from conflict without guilt, ignore provocation without regret, and stand still when others try to pull you into their storm. The world often mistakes loudness for strength. Real strength is quiet, it's calm, it's steady. You don't have to shout when you're sure. You don't have to fight when you've already won. Peace gives you that certainty, that quiet knowing that what's for you will find you, that you don't need to chase what's already yours. No amount of chaos can cancel what's been designed for your destiny. Peace is the foundation of wisdom. You can't make wise choices from a restless mind. Wisdom flows from stillness, not stress. That's why peace is a superpower. It allows you to see clearly when others see confusion. It keeps you grounded when others are reactive. It helps you move intentionally while others are driven by impulse. And in that stillness, you gain access to insight, strength, creativity that chaos could never give you. Protecting your peace doesn't mean avoiding people, it means setting boundaries. It means learning to say no without guilt and yes without fear. It means walking away from arguments that go nowhere and from energy that leaves you empty. It means refusing to relive pain in conversations that don't promote healing. It means prioritizing your peace over your pride. Because every time you choose peace, you choose progress. Peace is power because it allows you to stay focused on your mission. You cannot fulfill your purpose if you're always fighting distractions. You can't build when you're busy reacting. Every argument you avoid, every unnecessary battle you walk away from, every storm you outlast, that's a victory. Because peace doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care too much about your purpose to waste energy on nonsense. People who operate in peace are not easily moved. They don't get offended by everything. They don't crumble under criticism. They don't chase applause. Their confidence comes from clarity, not chaos. Their power comes from presence, not performance. That's why peaceful people are dangerous to negativity. Because you can't control someone who's calm. You can't manipulate someone who's grounded. You can't provoke someone who's centered. Peace is the ultimate form of strength because it requires restraint. It's easy to react, easy to argue, easy to fight back. But it takes real power to stay composed, to choose understanding over ego, to walk away instead of exploding. That's what true maturity looks like, mastering your emotions instead of letting them master you. When you walk in peace, you begin to attract peace. The energy you carry sets the tone for the spaces you enter. If you carry calm, others either align with it or leave. You become the atmosphere, not the reaction. You become the thermostat, not the thermometer. Your peace becomes your authority. And that's why it's so valuable, because no one can steal it unless you hand it over. There will always be people who try to test your peace through gossip, criticism, jealousy, or manipulation. But remember, their chaos only has power if you participate in it. When you refuse to engage, you win without fighting. When you stay calm, you remain in control. You protect your peace, you protect your destiny. Peace is not something you wait for, it's something you practice every day. Choose it in your thoughts, in your words, in your reactions. When you feel pressure rising, take a breath. When you feel misunderstood, don't rush to prove your point. When life gets noisy, withdraw into stillness. Because every moment you choose peace, you're choosing power. The world might see calmness as weakness, but the wise know better. Peace is the mark of inner mastery. It's the evidence that you've learned how to govern yourself before you try to govern anything else. Because the greatest battles are not fought on the outside, they're fought within. And the one who conquers themselves is more powerful than the one who conquers cities. So guard your peace like it's sacred, because it is. It's your power, your anchor, your protection. Let peace guide your decisions, shape your relationships, and define your days. Because when you live in peace, you don't just survive chaos, you rise above it. And when you rise above it, you discover what true power really feels like: calm, confident, completely unshaken. In a world that glorifies noise, silence has become rare, but it's also become powerful. Everyone wants to talk. Everyone wants to be heard. Everyone wants to prove a point. Yet the strongest people are often the quietest. They don't need to announce their intentions or justify their movements. They understand that silence isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Silence is strength. The kind that doesn't shout, doesn't show off, but still shakes the ground beneath it. There's a kind of discipline in silence that few people ever master. It takes power to speak. It takes greater power to remain silent when your emotions are loud. Anyone can react in anger, but it takes maturity to respond with patience. Anyone can defend themselves when misunderstood, but it takes confidence to let truth speak for itself. Silence isn't a lack of words, it's a mastery of them. It's knowing when to speak and when to hold back, when to move and when to wait. People often assume silence means surrender, but silence is strategy. The lion doesn't roar before it strikes, it moves quietly. The strongest minds don't need to prove themselves in every conversation. They let their results, their growth, and their peace do the talking. Because silence gives you space to think. It allows wisdom to settle where emotion would normally explode. It transforms impulsive reactions into powerful decisions. There's strength in knowing that not every situation deserves your response. You don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. You don't have to prove your worth to those committed to misunderstanding it. You don't have to explain your vision to people who can't see it. Silence protects you from draining your energy on things that add no value to your purpose. It gives you the emotional distance to observe without absorbing, to understand without reacting. Silence is a sign of control. It shows that you're not being led by your feelings, but by your focus. When you learn to stay silent in the heat of chaos, you win battles that others don't even see. Because silence keeps you unpredictable. It disarms gossip. It confuses critics. It frustrates those who thrive on your reaction. Your silence becomes your shield. Not because you're avoiding the fight, but because you've outgrown it. Sometimes silence is the only language peace speaks. You don't need to scream to make your point. Sometimes the calmest presence in the room has the loudest power. Silence commands respect because it reveals self-mastery. It's saying, I could speak, I choose not to. I could fight, but I choose peace. I could respond, but I value my energy too much. That choice is power. That restraint is strength. We live in a time where silence feels uncomfortable. People equate it with weakness, passivity, or indifference. Silence isn't about ignoring life. It's about managing it. It's about protecting your focus from unnecessary distractions. When you choose silence, you create space for reflection, clarity, and connection with your inner self. In silence, you can hear what chaos tries to drown out: your intuition, your purpose, your truth. Silence teaches you patience. It teaches you to trust timing. Not everything requires an instant response. Some answers reveal themselves when you step back and observe. When you stop forcing conversations, you start receiving clarity. When you stop reacting, you start understanding. Silence gives you the ability to see what's really happening beneath the surface: motives, patterns, energies. You start to see beyond words into the reality of intentions. Strong people understand that silence doesn't mean doing nothing. It means doing the right thing at the right time. It's a preparation period. It's where you plan your next move, not where you waste energy reacting to everything. Some of your greatest victories will come from what you didn't say, what you didn't post, and what you didn't respond to. Silence gives you power because it keeps your peace intact while chaos burns itself out. Think about nature. Storms make noise, but growth happens quietly. Trees don't shout while they're growing. They stretch silently toward the light. The same is true for you. Your elevation doesn't need an announcement. Real growth doesn't demand validation. When you move in silence, you protect your process. You protect your energy from people who might not understand your progress, or from those who would rather distract you than see you succeed. Silence also humbles the ego. The need to always respond, to always be right, to always have the last word. That's not strength, that's insecurity. Strength is being at peace even when you're not understood. Strength is trusting that truth doesn't need your defense. It will stand on its own. You don't have to correct every misconception or argue every point. Your silence will reveal more about your character than your words ever could. Sometimes silence is healing. Words can wound, but silence gives space for peace to rebuild. When you're silent, you stop adding fuel to fires that need to die. You give yourself and others time to think, to cool down, to see things differently. Silence can be a bridge back to understanding, a pause that prevents permanent damage. The most powerful leaders, thinkers, visionaries in history understood the power of silence. They knew that clarity is born in stillness. When you quiet the outside world, you can hear your inner wisdom. When you silence your fears, your faith becomes louder. When you silence your distractions, your direction becomes clearer. Silence doesn't just protect you from noise, it connects you to purpose. You'll notice that when you start walking in silence, everyone will understand it. People will try to provoke you, misinterpret your calm, or mistake your distance for weakness. Let them. Their misunderstanding is not your responsibility. Your focus is your responsibility. Your peace is your responsibility. Silence keeps you aligned with your purpose, not trapped in the opinions of others. Sometimes silence is the only answer that chaos deserves. When gossip comes your way, stay silent. When envy surrounds you, stay silent. When false accusations rise, stay silent. Not because you're weak, but because you know your truth doesn't need defending. Time will reveal what words can't. Silence gives truth the room to expose lies without your help. Silence is strength because it allows you to maintain power even in pressure. It teaches you emotional intelligence, how to respond with thought, not impulse. It builds resilience because when you can stay calm in conflict, you're already winning. It deepens wisdom because when you stop talking, you start listening, and in listening, you learn. The world may value loudness, but heaven values stillness. Progress doesn't always announce itself. Transformation happens quietly in unseen places, in late nights, in inner battles, in private prayers. When you move in silence, you're aligning yourself with something greater than applause. You're walking in purpose, not performance. So the next time you're tempted to react, remember that silence can say what words cannot. It speaks of maturity, focus, and strength. It tells the world that your energy is too valuable to waste on chaos. It shows that you've learned the art of inner peace. And that art will carry you further than any argument ever could. Silence is not the absence of sound. It's the presence of control. It's the calm confidence that doesn't need validation. It's the invisible armor that shields your spirit from negativity. When you walk in silence, you walk in strength. You walk with clarity. You walk with power. And that's the kind of strength the world cannot imitate. Quiet, grounded, and unshakable. Because true strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes it simply whispers, I'm still here, still standing, still rising, and I don't need to say a word. Focus. It's more than just paying attention. It's direction, it's discipline, it's destiny. Where your focus goes, your future flows. The quality of your life will always reflect the quality of your focus. You can have talent, passion, and potential, but if your attention is scattered, your progress will be too. Focus the difference between movement and momentum, between activity and achievement, between living by design and living by default. We live in a world built to break focus. Every sound, every screen, every scroll is competing for your attention. Distraction has become a lifestyle. People are busy but not productive, connected but not fulfilled, active but not advancing. And the danger is this: what you constantly focus on, you unconsciously move toward. That means if your attention is consumed by drama, fear, or comparison, your life will start to mirror that chaos. But if your focus is fixed on purpose, growth, and excellence, your life begins to align with power. Your mind is the gatekeeper of your destiny. Whatever occupies it determines your direction. If your thoughts are scattered, your results will be scattered. Focus creates order in the middle of noise. It's the ability to tune out distractions and tune into direction. It's not about how much you can do. It's about what you consistently give your energy to, because what you feed grows and what you neglect fades. Focus requires clarity. You can't hit a target you can't see. Too many people are aiming at everything, hoping to hit something. But life doesn't reward confusion, it rewards concentration. The more you focus, the clearer the path becomes. The more you eliminate distractions, the more progress you make. Focus turns vague wishes into concrete results. It transforms intention into impact. When you truly focus, you stop chasing everything that glitters. You stop needing validation, and you start valuing direction. Focus gives you the power to say no, not out of arrogance, but out of alignment. You begin to realize that every yes costs something: your time, your peace, your energy. And if your focus is divided, your future will be diluted. So you start protecting your focus like treasure because you understand it determines your tomorrow. Every great achievement in history was born from focus. Success doesn't happen by accident, it happens by attention. Whether it's an athlete perfecting their craft, an artist mastering their vision, or a leader transforming a generation, they all share one thing: unwavering focus. They knew how to ignore the noise, silence the doubt, give everything to what mattered most. Focus is what separates potential from purpose. Everyone has potential, but not everyone has discipline. Focused people don't wait for motivation. They build systems, habits, and structure. They don't let emotions dictate direction. They've trained their minds to stay locked on vision, even when feelings fluctuate, because focus isn't about intensity. It's about consistency. It's showing up daily, doing the work quietly, and trusting the process even when no one claps for you. Sometimes focus requires isolation. You can't build clearly when surrounded by confusion. There will be seasons when you have to withdraw, not because you're antisocial, because you're intentional. You can't entertain everything and still expect elevation. You can't invest in purpose and distractions at the same time. Focus demands separation from what drains your direction. The higher you go, the quieter it gets, because fewer people are willing to pay the price of focus. Distraction is dangerous because it looks harmless. It disguises itself as opportunity, entertainment, or even productivity. Every moment you spend chasing what doesn't matter is a moment stolen from what does. Focus is about stewardship, managing your time, thoughts, energy like sacred currency. Because every distraction carries a cost, and that cost is your destiny. When you lose focus, you start to feel lost. You start reacting instead of leading. You start following the crowd instead of following your calling. When you refocus, when you fix your eyes on your purpose, clarity returns. You stop comparing your journey to others because you realize comparison is the enemy of focus. You understand that your race is yours alone. The moment you take your eyes off your lane, you lose momentum in your mission. Focus builds resilience. It gives you the strength to endure when results are delayed. It keeps you moving when motivation fades. It anchors you when storms come. Because when you know your why, you can survive almost any how. Focused people don't quit when it's hard. They adjust, realign, and keep going. They understand that focus doesn't eliminate obstacles. It helps you navigate through them. Your focus determines what grows inside you. Focus on problems, you'll live in worry. Focus on gratitude, and you'll live in abundance. Focus on pain, and you'll stay stuck in the past. Focus on purpose, and you'll step into power. Life magnifies whatever you magnify. So the question isn't whether you have focus. It's what you're focused on. Sometimes we pray for change while focusing on the same things that created our chaos. We say we want peace, but feed on negativity. We say we want success, but give energy to distractions. Focus isn't just about attention, it's about alignment. It's about aligning your habits with your hopes, your priorities with your purpose. You can't create a focused future with a distracted mind. Focus is a choice. Every morning, you decide what to give your mind to. Will you focus on the obstacle or the opportunity, on what you've lost or what you can still become? Your focus shapes your mindset, and your mindset shapes your reality. You cannot live a powerful life with a powerless focus. Focus determines future because the future is built one decision at a time, one moment at a time, one day at a time. The small things you focus on daily create the big things you experience later. Every habit is a seed, and your attention is the sunlight that determines whether it grows or dies. If you focus on fear, you'll grow more reasons to doubt. If you focus on faith, you'll grow more reasons to believe. Guard your focus fiercely. Not everyone deserves access to it. Protect it from gossip, negativity, and distractions disguised as opportunities. Don't let temporary emotions make permanent decisions. Don't let other people's noise silence your direction. Because the moment you lose focus, you lose progress. And the moment you regain it, you regain power. Focus is not glamorous, it's repetitive. It's quiet. It's the discipline of doing the same things consistently until results appear. It's choosing the long road over shortcuts, patience over panic, purpose over popularity. But in time, that focus produces fruit, peace, confidence, fulfillment, and success that's built to last. When you truly understand that focus determines future, you stop treating attention like it's unlimited. You realize that where you invest it determines what kind of life you build. Every time you choose to focus on growth instead of gossip, on learning instead of complaining, on purpose instead of pressure, you're shaping a stronger future. So take inventory of your attention. What has your focus right now? Does it feed your future or drain your direction? You can't control every storm in life, but you can control what you look at while walking through it. And if your eyes stay fixed on where you're going instead of what's happening around you, you'll reach your destination no matter what. Focus is the unseen force behind every success story. It's the compass that keeps you aligned when life tries to pull you in every direction. And when you master it, when you learn to guard it, sharpen it, and use it with intention, your future begins to unfold with clarity and purpose. Because the truth is simple: distractions destroy dreams. Focus builds them. Stay fixed on your purpose, and you'll rise above confusion. Keep your eyes on your vision, and you'll walk into victory. Focus determines future, and your future is waiting for your full attention. Life has a way of surrounding you with noise. The opinions, the gossip, conflicts, the endless distractions that demand your attention but do nothing for your growth. Drama thrives in confusion. It feeds on your emotions, your reactions, and your energy. The more you engage with it, the more clouded your vision becomes. But the moment you rise above drama, you begin to see clearly. You start to understand what truly matters, who truly matters, and where your energy truly belongs. Clarity doesn't come from chaos. It comes from calm. When your mind is caught up in drama, it's like trying to see your reflection in a stormy sea. Everything is distorted, unstable, and restless. When you rise above it, when you detach from the unnecessary battles and emotional noise, the waters settle and you can finally see yourself, your goals, and your path clearly. Drama isn't just a distraction, it's distortion. It twists perception, magnifies problems, and hides possibilities. You cannot walk in purpose if your mind is trapped in petty conflicts. You cannot hear your inner voice when you're surrounded by outer noise. Rising above drama is not about pretending it doesn't exist. It's about choosing not to let it control your peace. It's about saying, I'm not going to spend my precious energy explaining myself to people who are committed to misunderstanding me. That's where freedom begins, because the less you react, the more you understand. When you choose to rise above drama, you begin to separate what is urgent from what is important. You stop letting temporary emotions make permanent decisions. You stop letting people's chaos dictate your calm. You realize that not every comment deserves a response, not every action needs a reaction, and not every situation requires your involvement. Sometimes maturity is measured by how quietly you can walk away from noise without announcing your exit. Clarity begins when you stop feeding confusion. Every moment you spend defending your peace is a moment you invest in your growth. The higher you go, the more distractions will try to follow you. But elevation requires discernment, knowing what to engage with and what to release. Drama wants to pull you back to where you used to be. It wants to keep you emotionally exhausted and spiritually distracted. But when you rise above it, you reclaim your direction. You remind yourself that your time is valuable and your peace is priceless. Drama thrives where focus dies. The more you pay attention to negativity, the less attention you have left for progress. Rising above drama doesn't make you weak. It makes you wise. It takes strength to stay calm when others expect you to break. It takes discipline to stay focused when distractions come dressed as opportunities for reaction. You begin to see that not everything requires your attendance. You can let people talk while you keep building. You can let situations unfold while you stay aligned with your vision. Clarity comes with distance. When you step back from emotional noise, you gain perspective. You begin to understand motives, patterns, and purposes that were hidden before. Drama clouds judgment because it demands an instant reaction. Clarity grows in reflection. When you rise above, you give yourself space to think, to breathe, and to see truth instead of emotion. You realize that some conflicts weren't even about you. They were reflections of other people's insecurities. When you rise above drama, your circle changes. You start to attract people who value peace over performance, growth over gossip, and purpose over popularity. You begin to build an environment where peace is the culture and progress is the focus, because clarity thrives in clean environments, mental, emotional, and social. The more you declutter your space from drama, the more room you create for clarity to move in. Sometimes the reason you can't see what's next is because you're too busy looking back, replaying conversations, reliving offenses, and reacting to noise. You can't move forward if you keep looking backward. Clarity requires release, releasing grudges, releasing validation, releasing the need to prove your point. When you rise above drama, you let go of what blocks your view. You stop staring at the storm and start seeing the sunrise. Clarity doesn't always come in a flash. Sometimes it comes in silence. It comes when you stop talking and start listening, not to the noise outside, but to the peace within. The answers you're searching for rarely come in moments of anger or reaction. They come in stillness. Rising above drama is choosing to protect that stillness. It's understanding that your energy is sacred and your attention is creative. Whatever you focus on grows. And if you focus on chaos, you'll create more of it. But when you focus on peace, direction, and purpose, your life begins to align with clarity. When you live above drama, your perception changes. You no longer see people as enemies, but as teachers. Every situation becomes a lesson in emotional maturity. You learn when to speak and when to stay silent, when to stand firm and when to step back. You begin to understand that not every conflict is meant to be confronted. Some are meant to be outgrown. Clarity reveals that growth often requires quiet exits, not dramatic closures. There's a certain lightness that comes with rising above drama. The weight of other people's opinions no longer controls you. The desire to explain yourself fades because your peace becomes the only proof you need. You no longer chase validation, you cultivate vision. You stop fighting for attention and start building intention. That's when life begins to make sense, not because everything is perfect, but because you're no longer letting imperfection steal your focus. When you rise above drama, your decisions become sharper. You make choices based on purpose, not pressure. You stop reacting emotionally and start responding intelligently. You begin to plan with clarity because your mind is no longer clouded by confusion. You can finally see what's worth fighting for and what's worth letting go. That's the power of perspective, and perspective is born from peace. Drama ends where wisdom begins. Every time you choose understanding over reaction, patience over panic, silence over shouting, you build inner strength. You become a person who can stand in the middle of storms and still see clearly. That's clarity, not the absence of problems, but the presence of peace in the middle of them. When you rise above drama, you rise into a higher version of yourself. You stop needing to be right and start choosing to be real. You stop chasing the temporary satisfaction of reaction and start pursuing the eternal reward of peace. You understand that the energy you waste on drama could be the same energy you use to build your destiny. Clarity is power, and it's waiting for you beyond the noise. The moment you stop letting chaos dictate your calm, you begin to see opportunities where others see obstacles. You start walking in confidence because confusion no longer controls your choices. You understand your mission, your message, and your meaning, and that is the beauty of rising above drama. It clears your vision, strengthens your focus, and connects you back to your purpose. So protect your peace, Guard your energy. Choose silence when chaos calls. Let people misunderstand you while you understand yourself. Let go of what distracts you so you can embrace what defines you. Because when you rise above drama, you don't just escape noise, you elevate into clarity. And clarity, once you have it, will guide you into everything that confusion tried to keep you from seeing.